Hi Satnam, it's Jodh. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to make ginger miso soup. Ginger miso soup. Came up with this once when I was not feeling well and just kind of put this together because it's got so much good stuff in it and it can be quite filling. It's very forgiving if you're missing an ingredient. You can skip it or substitute something else in. It makes just a really nice base for a soup or a meal, a good lunch or dinner. So what we have in here, we have kale, and you can use however much kale you want. I have about 3 leaves here because they're pretty big. 2 to 4 cloves of garlic. I minced this. You want about 2 fingers of ginger, so it's about like that. A lime or a lemon. I have some Bragg's liquid aminos, tofu. Tofu is optional if you don't like tofu. You could substitute in chickpeas for or another bean or lentil if you want to use one of those as a source of protein. Cayenne. Again, this is optional if you don't like the heat. Better than bouillon. Some miso. And then I am also going to use some noodles that I already have made. You could use wheat noodles, rice noodles. You could put some rice or quinoa or just not have a grain at all. Again, it's very forgiving. I like adding the noodles in and the tofu. I think it makes it more satisfying. So let's just get started with this. I'm starting off with prepping the kale, and with this curly kind of kale, what I like to do is take it off of the stem and then just tear it because it's in these cute little, little curly cute things, and this just helps it cook down in the soup a little faster. When I use the Lacinto kale, the dinosaur kale, I usually just chop it up fine. So it's just whatever your preference is, but I actually learned this method from Savitri. We were cooking together every single Tuesday. We would come together for lunch, we'd bring some ingredients, we'd make our lunch together, and it's a lot of fun doing that because you get to kind of learn someone else's style. You get to learn some new food combinations and even some food prep. So for example, when she and I first started cooking together, oh my gosh, I would chop vegetables so big. And nothing wrong with that, but with her I practiced chopping them a little smaller, more finely, and it makes a difference. First of all, they cook faster, it looks prettier, and I don't know, just a different way of doing it. So we have this, now we have all of our kale, and I'm going to just rinse this, and what I like to do is fill the bowl with cold water and then lift the kale out and put it in a strainer, and then I pour the water out and repeat that 3 times, and that way all of the dust, dirt, little particles that are in the kale just fall to the bottom and you're lifting the clean kale out. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that. Alright, so we have the nice freshly washed kale here, and I already have my my garlic chopped. I just do a rough chop on that. And then for the ginger, make it real simple, and you can just cut it in half, and then I like to just cut it one more time because the ginger is to infuse the broth. Now if you want to eat the ginger, you can totally just slice it up or mince it up and eat the ginger. You can eat it afterwards too. I have 3 cups of water boiling on the stove, and to that I'm going to add a teaspoon of the bouillon, the garlic, the ginger, and the kale. and let that cook for about 10 minutes. That's going to infuse the water with the flavor of the ginger and the garlic and the broth, and it's going to cook the kale too, of course. Now, if you want an even gingerier broth, you can cook the ginger in the water as long as you want. I've done it for up to an hour and then added the other ingredients in, and it's really good. But if you're looking to kind of prep your lunch and you want something to be ready in about 15 or 20 minutes, then I recommend a minimum of 10 minutes to cook the ginger. Okay, so here we have it in the pot, and I know this looks like a lot of kale, but if you know greens, you know they cook down. So I'm just going to tamp that down in there and let this cook. You can always add more broth to it, but I like to just get this concentrated straight away. It's been about 5 minutes, maybe 7. And so you can see that this is cooking. I've turned it down to more of like a medium-low heat, and you can see that the kale is still nice and green. It smells so good. The garlic and ginger just smell really good. I'm going to put my tofu in right now and let that cook through and heat up for these last few minutes. I have turned the heat off, and I am going to stir in the Bragg's liquid aminos. You could also use soy sauce and the lime juice, and I just put my cayenne in there as well, and I'm going to stir that around. And at this point, if you'd like to remove the ginger, you can go ahead and pull the ginger out and discard that. Okay, now I have the tablespoon of miso. There you go, in my bowl. And you don't want to add the miso to the boiling broth. So I took my broth off the heat, and I'm going to just pour some in. It's hot, it's just not boiling anymore. And then using the back of the spoon, just begin to break this up. Now I'm just going to pour the miso mixture back into my big pot and give that a stir. And then I went ahead and added my noodles in, so they're warming up in here. And this is what we have for the finished product. You can see the kale, the tofu, the noodles, that rich, flavorful ginger and garlic infused miso broth. So let's give it a taste. I just love the way the broth tastes. You can certainly adjust if you may want to start by adding 1 or 2 tablespoons of the Bragg's. Kind of depends on how salty your bouillon is. And then you can always add more to it if you like it a little saltier. The Bragg's also adds a depth of flavor. And you can, of course, also adjust the cayenne. Maybe you want it a little spicier. I like it spicy. Maybe you want it not so spicy. You can leave it out. Same thing with the lime or the lemon, just adding it to your taste. But we made this very quickly, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to enjoying this meal with you very soon. Sat Nam.